1 in 12 teenagers will attempt some form of self-harm, according to a study published this week by British medical journal The Lancet. The study was contributed to by the Murdoch Children's Research Institute in Melbourne. It also found that around 10% of teenagers will then continue to deliberately harm themselves into young adulthood. Well, Sharon Witt is a teacher and parent who has written more than 6 books designed to help young people navigate adolescence, and she's recently finished a book designed for the parents of teenagers. And she joins us now from Melbourne. Sharon, thanks very much.
Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. Now, this study, let's start with that. It's quite alarming. As I just said, 1 in 12 young people, mostly girls, engage in self-harming, such as cutting, burning, or taking life-threatening risks. This is certainly alarming. Is it a surprise to you?
Yeah, look, they are alarming statistics, Andrew. And look, our girls are struggling. I mean, many young people are struggling with self-harm. And in my 20 years' experience as an educator, certainly the last 5 or 6 years, I've seen more incidents of that occurring. And, you know, a lot of our girls are really struggling, and they're looking at ways of I guess, self-medicating and getting through those tough times. And so for many of them, self-harm is one way, and we really need to help give them the toolbox, I guess, to help them find other ways of coping with the stress that they are experiencing in their teen years.
You talk about the stress. What sort of pressures do young girls face in Australia today?
Oh, well, look, I mean, there are a myriad of issues. I mean, one of those is body image. I mean, that is probably one of the biggest issues that I see young girls facing. They are looking at a lot of toxic messages every single day. They're bombarded in the media with images of how they're supposed to look, how they're supposed to act. We only need to see the pop culture at the moment and, you know, the Miley Cyruses, the Lindsay Lohans. We see these constantly, and this is what our girls are pitting themselves up against. You know, there's unrealistic airbrushing happening in advertising and in magazines. So our girls are really struggling with what the benchmark is for perfection. And so, yeah, there's a lot of struggles with their body image. And
we've also, of course, seen the prevalence of social media. They are obviously very high users of that form of media, and the issue of cyberbullying. What sort of a problem is that?
Yeah, look, this is not just with girls, this is with boys as well. I mean, our teenagers are being raised as digital natives. I mean, they are in the cyber world all the time. I mean, the first time I looked at a computer was in university. You know, now our young people are born into this. And so they are using this as a crutch, really, and they're using this as part of their everyday lives. Their online network and their online world is just as important as their real world for young people. There's this phrase called FOMO, which is fear of missing out, and our young people really are struggling with that. So you find that they are on their social networks all the time, 24/7, and if they're trying to sleep, they've got them next to them at their bedside table. So I encourage the young people that I work with to actually turn off their social media at a certain time, because a lot of young people are actually struggling to fall asleep and struggling to find really good sleeping habits. And I attribute a lot of this to the social media, because they just aren't able to switch off. And if they're engaging in social media right up until 10, 11 o'clock at night and then wanting to switch off and go to sleep, they're finding that very, very difficult.
Okay, Sharon, well, look, I've got 3 daughters. I've got about 6 years until the first one becomes a teenager. What advice are you giving parents of teenagers today?
Okay, well, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, in that case, I think it takes an entire city to raise a teenager. So I think you need to draw on the actual community that you have. We are really lucky in our society now, where we have so much great information out there and helpful advice. With young girls coming up into teenagehood, I would make sure that I keep the lines of communication open. Really know your child, and when they enter their teenage years, look for those sort of warning signs that they might be struggling, and just know that there are going to be times when they are really just wanting to explode. You know, it's really an emotional roller coaster going through those teen years, and just to be there, make sure you listen to them, make sure they've got good support structures in place, make sure they've got a mentor, make sure they're involved in sport or other sort of social activities that they can be engaged in. All those sorts of things help our young people through their teen years.
Should they be friends or should they be parents?
I think they should be parents. Look, I think we want to be friends with our young people, but there's a fine line between being friends or being the friend parent, which is one of the things I talk about in my new book, the parenting styles, the buddy-buddy parent. And I think we need to remember first and foremost, we're the parent. We need to set those boundaries in place, and we need to make sure we're there to reinforce those when needed.
Sharon Witt, thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Great to talk to you.
Well, if you or anyone you know would like to talk to someone about any of the issues we've just discussed, there are a number of hotlines you can call. Lifeline counsellors can be reached 24 hours a day on 13 11 14. Men's Line is available on 1300 789 978. And the number for Kids Helpline is 1800 551 800.